everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We are joined here today with a special guest. We are here with writer, producer, actor Addison Heimann, who is now adding the title of director to his resume with his new film, Hypochondriac, which I would describe probably as a psychological horror that's really heavy in the realm of mental health. So Addison, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I love that I was like writer, actor, producer. Oh yeah, and director. That's a lot of hats. And no one likes when like people wear, it's like you love one hat, but then when you see four hats, it's a little ridiculous. So like I've now like come back to just two hats, but maybe I'll add a third hat or a fourth hat later. This isn't helpful. Hi, nice to see you. Very, very, very glad to be here.
Addison, you also added another, so I described it as a psychological horror, but you actually said gay horror film, or we have the subgenre, the queer horror.
Yeah, the subgenre, yeah.
So I think that's interesting that you described it that way, because obviously, yes, 100%, and I didn't even think to say it. So
it's cool. It's more like I usually, they're like, what's your movie about? And I'm like, oh, it's a gay horror about my mental breakdown. And people are like, ooh. So that's like my in, but also like, It depends where I am, because like if I'm at a gay film festival, I'm not going to say gay horror because they know that. Or like, like I describe it differently. And if I don't like them and I'm a little scared, I'll be like, oh, it's a horror movie about a guy who sees a thing and I don't know. And then I'm going to go get another drink. But that happens rare. Because most of the people I've talked to are great. It's just like, that one guy who's in the corner who wants to tell you why your movie sucks. And you're like, guy, man, I just want to enjoy myself. And he's like, no, but you deserve to know. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm sorry, guys. We're just enjoying ourselves. And I'm just like popping off, complaining for no reason. I
have a feeling you've been doing this a lot lately.
Yeah, but I mean, I always enjoy it because I'm wild and crazy, and you guys look wild and crazy. I mean, come on, you have a fucking Don't Feed the Plants. You have Mr. Oh my God, Audrey too, right there.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so, Addison, I'm going to ask you to do this, and then this is going to be really interesting. Can you give our listeners who have no idea about Hypochondriac? Give them a synopsis of the film, and I'm just going to sit back and let this go.
Sure. So Hypochondriac tells the story of a young potter who that's pottery, like a ghost. And he kind of has his life together. He has a hot boyfriend, a cool job. His boss is kind of the worst, but I mean, whose boss isn't the worst? And one day he gets a mysterious box from his mother that includes a voicemail that basically is like, you should not trust your boyfriend. And when he was 12, his mother tried to kill him. And then she was then put in the hospital for a while. And the confluence of her coming back and these weird symptoms of dizziness and nausea kind of cause him to question things. And then when he starts hallucinating a man in a wolf costume, he now realizes that something's wrong, and then he could potentially become his mother. And so he kind of goes down this spiral of obsession and insanity as he tries to hide everything happening from his friends and family, as he sees doctors trying to potentially fix him, and then ultimately loses his mind because he's being pulled further and further back into his trauma. But it's funny, I swear.
I swear. I will say the ghost reference, I actually brought it up to my wife and I'm like, you have to see this. And I was telling her about it and she's like, because I tell her to watch like a lot of horror movies.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's kind of like Ghost. I'm just saying. And she was like, oh, really? Different. So that was my in. Totally stole it.
No, I fucking love it. I mean, that's like my favorite. I mean, that's my, like, people are like, what's your favorite sequence in the movie? And I'm like, that part, because people are like, if you got a good audience, they're laughing, they're not sure what to do, some are applauding, some are like, what the hell is happening? And it's just like a really cool moment of like pure chaos. And so I do like that section because people are so unsure of what to do.
You know what I loved about your synopsis of the film? So last week we interviewed a couple of gentlemen about another psychological horror film that released recently, and they summarized it in one sentence, and we were like, wow, that was really ominous. And then you did a really long, like, detailed description. So I just think that contrast is so interesting.
I know. I mean, like, listen, I can do that. I mean, like, it's a horror movie about a guy who's being haunted by a man in a wolf costume. Ultimately, that's what it is. But it's funny because this movie's based off my mental breakdown, and those are the three kind of events. Basically, I lost a full functioning of my arms for 6 months of my life after an injury at work. And my mother was telling me and leaving me voicemails telling me not to trust my friends. And Dr. Google was telling me I was dying of ALS. So that kind of confluence of events caused me to splinter open and lose my mind. So so in the movie, so it's just like there's a lot of threads, but I think ultimately like a mental breakdown is like hard to explain because it's not just one thing that leads you there. You know, it's like a lot of things. You can't, it's just like, oh yeah, it's because of this. And you're like, well, it's a lot of things. You know?
You're exactly right. There's no way to describe this film without going into some of the layers. You have to, because it's not just one thing that, like you said, that kind of causes this to come on.
Right.
And you kind of just answered some of my next question for you, which was, you know, at the very start of the film, the text that says this is based on a real life breakdown.
Right.
And that's the context right there. So for you, what was this, like, cathartic to do this?
Yes and no. I mean, like, it's both, right? I mean, like, you know, like, movies are everything, right? They're like chaos, they're grounding, they're cathartic, they're devastating, they're horrific, kind of like a mental breakdown. But like it was like all the I would say like the little moments for me are the things that were cathartic. It was like the third day of filming when I realized that everybody was there to make the movie that I was trying to tell. It was like the moment where I had a panic attack where there was physical violence between the mother and the son characters, and I had to leave and then come back. It was immediately held by the crew. Or it's like seeing in the edit when I added one layer that made me personally break my heart, because ultimately, like, yes, this is a story about me and my mother. I also miss my mother. I missed who she was and who she's become now, and her kind of mental stasis is not something that's healthy for me. But like, you know, there's those moments where I'm like, fuck, I wish things were different, or I wish things happened this way or this way. But ultimately, you can't really choose your family, and you can't choose how things happening in your life within reason. So, but yeah, it was. I mean, it's just like, you know, or like seeing it for the first time with an audience at South by Southwest when people were screaming and laughing, and I had a lot of friendly people in there, but it was like really a rambunctious audience, and it was really fun. And I was like, oh shit, people were responding to it. Or when the first person who's been through something mentally like came up to me afterwards and thanked me for the film. Like, you know, there's all those like teeny moments that like end up meaning in making the filmmaking and ultimately my trauma, mining the trauma worth it, you know, because if it speaks to just one person, it's like, well, fuck, I don't care how many bad people review it or how many good people like it, or that I'm putting bad and good, or how many, like, the movie's out there, everybody gets to have their opinion, but I got to change at least one person, and that's cool.
Sure.
You know,
I think you said two things that I just wanted to kind of piggyback on. You know, you're talking about wishing you had like this different version of your mother that you remembered at one point in time. And it's almost like we don't acknowledge that as there is like a sense of like grief that we go through when somebody changes in a significant manner. And it sounds like you've experienced that. And also your main character experiences that. And it's ironic because you sort of, in the beginning, he tells his boyfriend that his mother's deceased. And that's almost like representative of what you're describing. It is like lost that previous version of the person.
Yeah, I kind of always describe it as like Jekyll and Hyde, because Jekyll is a good person. He puts his, like, you know, he's nice, he's caring, and then Hyde is the demon. And when he's Jekyll, he does not remember what happens when he's Hyde. And so that's kind of how I kind of describe my relationship with my mother. It's like when she's lucid and she's not in a manic episode, she's a mother to me, and she was that for the first 12 years of my life until she cracked. And so and then since then, like, it's been on and off, and you know, but it was good because I had a father who was distant, alcoholic, like you know, kind of emotionless, and then had the mother, and then once she cracked, I had neither. And so it was like a bummer, like for that sense. But it's also like in terms of the filmmaking, like, you know, that's to kind of represent this like a descent into madness that both my mother went through and then ultimately I went through, was that like fracturing of the storytelling or the narrative or the camera. I mean, it's those crossfades, it's those fractures when like we go double mirroring, that it's basically like, oh yeah, like it's Jekyll and Hyde, or like fighting against each other. Like he wants one, but the other one's always going to be there. And so like visually, that language is kind of very present throughout the whole movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
There was like, given a mental breakdown is a serious mental issue, there was also self-harm in this movie.
Yeah.
And I have also been down the same. I've had numerous experiences and some mental breakdowns myself, and the self-harm really grabbed me, and it was pretty graphic. And I was like, wow, you really put that out there, you know? How intentional was that to really hit it home, like in this breakdown?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because like a lot of my self-harm was I just kept making my injury worse, because I don't know what I thought in my head. It was like if I don't know, like that like moment where he's cutting into his arm and the blood is spilling out. It's like an imagined moment I had so many times throughout my breakdown, because for some reason I was like, well, if I could just detach my tendons, then the pain will stop. You're like, or something along those lines, you know. So it's very intentional. It's also crazy how we don't realize when we lose functioning of a body part, how much we use it. And so like the constant, you know what I mean? Like the constant pain of it. I was like, cool, I forgot that I can't masturbate anymore, because when I do, my arms won't heal. So I'm gonna have to fuck a fleshlight instead. But because I'm on antidepressants, I can't come. So I'm just gonna sit here while my arms are in pain and my pants are at my ankles and fucking this thing, and I can't come, and then I'm gonna chafe. And if I stop, I'm going to get really painful balls. So, you know, it's between the rock and the hard place sometimes within I didn't need to tell that story, but it did happen.
Description ever. I love it.
Wow.
But that's the thing, is it's like, you know, I like every time like I introduce the movie, I'm like, it's based on my mental breakdown, but I'm still here. And also like I usually run and jump and act a fool, because like I need people to see the like lighter side, and I also need to basically be like, please laugh. Or like not like laugh, like if you don't want to laugh, you don't have to laugh, but I invite you to laugh, because ultimately some parts of the mental breakdown are ridiculous, like the story I just told you. You know, like it just sometimes you can't make that shit up. You're just like, wow. In another world, a year from now, I'm gonna really laugh about this. But right now, I'm crying, and I'm just like balls deep in a fake butthole. And it's just, I can say that on a podcast, right? You can just bleep it out if you don't want.
Our podcast, I've said way worse. So, so I have another question. We'll just change gears there.
Yeah. We can totally move on. We could pretend it didn't happen. You could leave this podcast and be like, Jesus, that guy's nuts. And I'm like, I know. Anyway, yes, your question.
I've been married a long time. You know how many times I'm like, we could just pretend that didn't happen and just move on. You know?
Yep. You kind of need that.
writing and directing the film, it flowed really nicely. Was there anything that you wish you had added in or changed in the finished product?
That's a good question. Ultimately, my answer is going to be no, because like there's a 2.5 version of this story, like 2.5 hour version of the story. In fact, our rough cut was 2 hours and 20 minutes. And the first thing I told my editor was like, cool. So the first week we're going to cut 50 minutes out of this film. And I ultimately think that like those scenes are really strong, but it was funny because it was like, we had a really smooth principal photography, because we were ready to go March 2020, and then something weird happened in the world that prevented us from filming for a while. And the COVID pandemic. We got it. Made it clear. So basically, so I got my actor for a year to just hang out and chill and get to know me. And so he by the end was like doing a very, I think, authentic representation of my shits, my I don't know, what's the word, my isms, as it were, which was annoying, but also like good for him, he got me. And then so principal photography was pretty smooth. So by the time we got into the edit room, it became less like a, oh no, we missed it, and more like a, oh, now we really get to form a new version of the story, because there are there are, like there's a scene in which happened in real life that I ended up cutting is right after he burns his arms, he gets a phone call from his mother and he answers it. And it's the first time that she is lucid. He basically like breaks down and she just like takes care of him and is a mother to him for like the only moment in the film. But ultimately like we had that when I was doing, but then like later in the edit, I was looking at the found footage section and there's a scene in flashback of the mother and son holding each other while she's crying. And I'm like, oh, that does it. I don't need that anymore. But it was a real scene and it was really, emotional, but like, it was weird how you just would pull things out and you're like, fuck, I don't miss this. And that's crazy because in the script, everything was so specific and like this leads to this, leads to this, leads to this. But fortunately, because we had test screenings and stuff like that, I was able to realize that audiences are smart and they could go from one thing to another and kind of fill in the gap and the pieces without me having to do much, which was really cool to learn because, you want to believe that your audiences are smart. And this movie, but the thing is like, this movie isn't ultimately about what happened. It's like how I make you feel emotionally as you watch someone experience everything that he thinks is real. And so like if people like let go of that part of the brain and just experience like this emotional breakdown, it can be quite dizzying, but also hopefully cathartic, because I mean the whole point of the movie is that there's hope. But so.
And speaking about like how the final outcome, what did I mean are the main character Zach, is it Villa
yeah,
his performance is amazing, right?
Yeah, and that's like I said earlier, it's because we spent like a year together. Not because he's also a very, very talented actor. He went to Juilliard. I don't know if you heard of it. And like, so he's like, he already came with like a lot of training. And by the time we got to set, it was like, oh, cool. I'm not going from trying to do from like, like good to fantastic. He was already great. And then I just got to like do the sound, like the mixing to like make him go here or make him go here. But the beautiful thing about it is he was always like on his game. So he made it very easy for me to like just come in and pinpoint. And he's done TV. A lot of my actors have done TV, which is very good for an indie movie because it's a very quick schedule. And like Marlene, who played the mom, she would do something emotionally different every scene, but she would always put the cup in the right place. And that's really stupid, but it's hard because sometimes you're just like there's time. I love Chris. He's an awesome actor, the guy who plays my dad, but there's a moment where we just needed to put his hand just needed to stay on the back of his head. And we were doing reverse coverage. And I was like, Chris, your hand. And he was like, I'm sorry. But like, that was like the one teeny moment. But for the most part, everybody was so professional at that end. So we just got to fly and just really focus on the moments that mattered, the acting, rather than like, and the camera work and the story. So I was very lucky with that.
And I didn't realize this till recently. I looked up Zach's IMDb, and he played Richard Ramirez on American Horror Story.
Yes, he did.
It'd be interesting to know like which role he found harder to portray, you or Richard Ramirez.
I would say I definitely think it's this one because he had to go through the ringer for me, and I put him through the ringer, and we understood that. And I think he had to do like a little bit of like a D, what's it called when you like remove your skin? Shedding. When you like a shedding of the character. I probably did that with Richard Ramirez too because it was a serial killer. That's a good question. I should ask him that. Now I'm not so sure. I'm like, you had to play a serial killer, but I also put you through a mental breakdown, which was harder.
I mean, to be honest, though, he had to be extremely vulnerable in his role playing you, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But there was some scenes there that I imagine were very tough for him to just be fully immersed in what he was supposed to be doing and just also be vulnerable around people that were filming. I imagine it was not easy.
It's like, it was always professional, but there was like, it's just that thing is, it's just like every scene required a different energy level. Like when we were doing like the very specific intimacy scene, like there was a very different energy level to the mushroom sequence or like the dancing or like the pottery stuff. Like everything required its own kind of like tone. And so, but one thing that always centered us when we were doing the movie is like, no matter where we were, no matter if we were anxious or having fun, like I would do like little things before set, and then we would just take a moment, take a deep breath collectively together, and then action, and they would go. And that would always like center us back into the current moment. And then we would build the tone around that, but we always took a deep breath before we went forward. And that I found was really helpful.
So there's a scene super early on where I know you've been to therapy. And you talk down somebody who's having a panic attack and you start doing some grounding techniques with them.
Yeah.
That's a person who's been trained.
Right. I know, but it's funny too, because especially when it comes to that, is like, if you've been trained and then somebody does that to you, my first instinct is like, fuck you. Don't do that to me. Don't tell me to name 3 objects in the room. It's not working for me right now. Like, it's like almost you get too because it's like I'm able to talk people down because I've had a lot of experience in therapy. I've been in it for like 8 years now. So but like, it's like that thing where someone's like, I made a mistake, and I'm just like, mistakes happen, no worries. Like trust me when I say that I forgive you and I'm no longer thinking about this mistake. And they're like, thanks. And then I go, I made this mistake. I'm like, I made a mistake. I'm the worst person in the world. And my brain goes, you are the worst person in the world. So it's like, you have the ability to help others, but yourself, you're like, fuck, I need to be even more advanced because the basic techniques don't work anymore.
100%. I always say that it's significantly easier to help somebody else than it is to help yourself. 100%.
Yeah.
Right.
Just so you know, I don't know if you could tell, Dave's a psychologist. So whenever we watch a psychological horror movie, sometimes I talk to Dave and I'm like, Dave, you need to stop. You just need to stop talking right now. Like,
I couldn't help it. I saw that scene and I was like, yes, I know exactly the framework that this person's coming from. And I love that you threw it in there because it kind of also explains, like, from your point of view, exactly what you're saying. This is someone who was going through a really difficult time, but could easily like get himself to help someone else. But when it came to himself, he didn't really know what to do, and he was, looking for answers everywhere we could try to get him.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what it is. And the tragedy is, it's like, and I will say the cool thing is, like, obviously you see me and you see the way I act, and hopefully you're giggling along occasionally because I do like to think that I'm funny. And if I'm not, then that's no worries. I think I am though. Also, I have a great mustache. But anyway, beside the point of my mustache and my hilarity, like the mental, I was using that as a tool for distraction back in my mental breakdown days. And now, because I have gotten more advanced in my psychology, I can just use it for myself. And like, no longer it's a point, which is sometimes it fucks people up because they're like, you're joking, are you upset? And I'm like, no, I'm actually not. And I would tell you if I am, because I know how to ask for help, and I did not before. Doesn't mean it isn't hard, but I do know how to ask for that little kernel of something to like get you to the next step of whatever you need, to acknowledge it and then work through it, rather than to not acknowledge it and then suffer and spiral.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now I'm going to change gears completely on you again.
Let's do it.
I just want to say, I thought it was really ballsy to show full frontal in your film. That was a good joke, right? I can be funny too.
Yeah. Really ballsy. Ballsy.
But seriously, and I had this discussion with my wife too. Especially in horror can be very sexual, but it's always women. And I'm like, it needs to be. We actually did an episode with a friend of ours about queer horror. He made a queer horror film, and we were discussing the genre as a whole. And when I saw it, I was like, in your opinion, do you think it's about time to show full frontal nudity in more horror movies for men?
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely think so. But I also think, like, I think my movie called for it. And I don't want to see dicks just for dick's sake. But I think ultimately in that moment, it was important for me to, like, he's completely stripped bare. He's got absolutely nothing left. And so he's just standing there so vulnerable, so destroyed. And all he needs is a distraction. So when he's like, fuck me, it's like that moment of just pure rock bottom. And so and then to pure psychosis when you see it again, it's covered in blood. It's like there's, you see on Twitter, they're like the dick count on Euphoria, and it's like all that, like, it's always a fun joke and all that stuff. But like, I think that, like, I want to see that, because what's the difference? Penises are penises. I mean, that's the thing, is it's like, you don't go in that, you're like, damn, penis. You're like, that's a penis, but mostly, oh wow, look how fucking destroyed he is. And the more we can have, like, nudity and sex tied to story versus just tied to exploitation is also important to me too. You know, I mean, for the
You're
right,
my hero
you know,
right now. You're my absolute hero. Thank you.
yeah. Yeah, and because like that's what it is. It's all story based. Like everything should relate back to the story, and if it doesn't, then you got to ask yourself why you're doing it. And it doesn't mean that it could be I don't know, and then you figure out the answer. But ultimately, that's what filmmaking is like. And the beautiful thing about making a movie with like the best people in their respective fields over your shoulders is that like you don't always need to know the answer, because other people also have answers, and the more collaborative you are, and the more I think is the more cohesive the movie will be. Yeah, I mean, specifically that was really helpful when talking, because I worked with an intimacy coordinator, which I know is relatively new in the movie making experience, but I think that's like so necessary, at least for me in my film, because basically what happened was like I talked to the intimacy coordinator, talked to my friend Carly, and I was like, Carly, this is what I want. And she's like, great. So she went to the actors, and they're like, Carly's like, this is what Addison wants. And they're like, great, this is what I'm comfortable with. And then she tells me what they're comfortable with, and then we all have an exact idea of what we're doing. And then when we get on the set, we're just there to play. And honestly, all she did was help me make it sexier. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, he'd be like, oh, he shouldn't a guttural moan here. He should whisper moan, because that's going to be more authentic and sexy. I was like, totally. Gave Zach that note. He would do it. And you're like, oh, that makes sense here. Like, and you're like, that kind of stuff. And even when it gets uncomfortable, there was an angle of a specific sex actor that one of my actors was uncomfortable with, and I was like, oh yeah, we don't need to use it, so we just cut it and we moved on. But we had all that conversation before, so we have this kind of these tools and this vocabulary that we're working with, and so parameters feel very intentional. So there's like less fear based, because we're kind of all on the same page before we even step on the set.
Sure. That's amazing. And I will say that scene, it starts here and ends way over here.
Yeah, I know.
It extends all the way through, and I was like, wow, that's good movie making.
Oh, thank you.
I actually rewound it, watched the scene again, and I was like, wow, that's messed up. Like, that's awesome.
It's so funny when we get to the beginning of that scene. I'm like, it's like, for me, that's when it gets like from the ghost sequence on, it's just like woof. And like it feels like there are peaks and valleys, because that's I'm fucking with what I want you to believe is real or not. But just like for me, we filmed all that pretty back to back, all that like section, and like there's a moment where I was like, fuck, I'm exhausted. Like this is just like, it's insane what this man has to go through before he gets to the other side. Yeah.
Does the intimacy coordinator, does she work with couples? I'm just curious.
Yes, she actually does do she actually does that. So you said joke and I said no, it's real. But that's how she started. She started working at a sex shop and would do workshops, and then the job kind of came up in Hollywood, and then she got her training and certification there. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
You can ask for the phone number later, Josh.
Yeah, I'll put it in the
We'll
thing.
send it in an email, so it's not, broadcast on the podcast.
Got it.
Addison, you touch on some important themes in healthcare, and I was wondering if like this was kind of your intention. The first was the desire for an answer or a label or a diagnosis on the patient's end. But then on the healthcare end, that dismissive and minimizing attitude that healthcare providers can often give. My favorite phrase was, it's crazy what anxiety can do. What was this? What stress can do to the body?
You'd be shocked how the mind can affect the body.
Yes.
And you're like, and then you hear that and you're like, okay, so now what? Like,
exactly.
I wish that, I mean, honestly, like, I think the biggest issue between that, and that's what happened. I mean, like, especially with like Michael Cassidy playing the bro doctor, the very first thing is like, that was the first doctor that I saw.
Great.
And he was just so hot, I couldn't deal. And I was like, how am I taking it? It's like when you see those Instagram doctors who are like constantly working out and shirtless, and you're like, do people believe you when you talk to them? Because I want my doctors to be so much uglier, to be honest. Be fit, but model, like, but it's LA, so it is what it is. But yes, like and it was just like I would be told that, and I they're doctors, right? So you want to believe them, and I'm inclined to be you know, it was, I don't want to say it was entirely the doctor's fault that what happened to me, but like definitely partially. Like I was prescribed steroids at one point because the guy said I had a sinus infection, which is not true. You know, or like the guy didn't know how to, I had also like lost vision in my left eye for a bit because I was over wearing my contacts during this. And so he like didn't know how to give me a proper eye exam. He like scratched my, like really roughed up my eye. So it's like, there's, you know, and then you're going to an urgent care and you're like, well, this is what my insurance takes. And yeah, it's funny. It's just like, I just wish there was a way. And it was the final doctor, which is like kind of a representation of the final doctor in the movie. Is there was this neurologist who, asked me what was wrong, and then I sent her a 5-page response about everything that had happened, because I was like, fuck this, I can't do this anymore, this is everything that's happening. And then she was like, come in, and then she was like, you might have multiple sclerosis, let's check you, it could be stress, but I want to make sure you get every test so you have peace of mind. And I was like, thank you. And so they did, and she did, and ultimately that was what I was what was able from like my symptoms, my mental symptoms, that's what caused everything to disappear. It was like, cool, all the head fog, all the dizziness, all the nausea, all the arm tingling went away because I had an MRI that said you did not have MS. You know, I had nerve, and like, I don't want that to be the case for everybody, but for me, I had gotten so far down the rabbit hole that was the only thing that was going to pull me out of it. But the fact that she was able to be like, it could be in your mind, but it could also not be, let's make sure. And then I was never told that by any of the other doctors.
So it's so interesting to me because just from my own studies that I've gone through, it's always stressed that you rule out medical before you start to go through anything else, because that's, you know, we can start to treat all these symptoms and stuff, but if there's an actual medical condition, there's nothing I'm gonna do talk therapy based.
And I also had a real issue. I literally had an injury on set. I had physical, I lost full functioning of my arms. Like that wasn't mental, that was real. Probably exacerbated by the mental, of course, but I had a real significant repetitive strain injury, and I had to go through significant physical therapy. So that was hard, but like once that got pushed through too, I was like, okay, cool. Like when I was able to lift 5 pounds, man, that was a great cathartic day of just crying and just like being like, all right, I thought this is going to be forever, and now I know it's probably not going to be. And then I was able to push through to the next step. But you know, it takes time, and it takes the right people. And I fortunately had a really good therapist who was like, the reason, like I avoided hospitalization because of my therapist, who was like, we should talk every day. And so I talked to him every day.
Wow.
Yeah. He was it was like very needed. And I remember when he told me that, I started crying because it was like, oh, fuck, I'm fucked up to the point where he thinks we need to talk every day. But also I'm so grateful for the fact that he wants to talk to me every day, because I do need it. And I did need it, you know.
I have to tell you, I watched this and it resonated for me in like kind of a flip-flopped way. So I watched this as someone who's had to deliver some like diagnoses that were like there's stigma behind or were really difficult, and seeing relief on someone's face when I actually expected there to be like a denial, resistance, or anger directed at me. And watching, like seeing this story kind of confirmed that what I've started to believe to be true is that people, when they're struggling, really do want some kind of concrete answer. And that was great for me to be able to see it through your story and not just based on my few experiences I've had, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like he says it in the monologue when he's talking to his mom's psychiatrist. He's like, I don't care if it's ALS or MS. I just want it to stop. I need it to stop. I don't care. I don't care what it is. I just need to know what it is. And, you know, ultimately he says that, but he doesn't really mean that, because what he really needs to do is acknowledge the fact that he was traumatized by his mother and needs to accept the fact that he needs help. And he was doing it in like every other wrong way. But like, you know, that is just the case. Cause like, I was just like, and then once I realized that I suffered from OCD and had catastrophic intrusive thoughts, and that thoughts aren't real, and actions are. So as long as your thoughts are kept in your body and you don't act on them, then you don't need to worry about them because they're harmless. I'm just like, oh, fuck. I read a whole book on it, and I was like, this is me. What the fuck? And I told my psychiatrist, and he's like, yeah, that's probably true. And I was like, oh my God, an answer. Thank God. So I don't have to like constantly be like, why do I have this itch on my balls? Is it herpes? It must be herpes. My boyfriend's gonna break up with me because I have herpes. Where did I get herpes? Like literally just like crawling down into the abyss, you know, until I finally got the idea that like, oh shit, thoughts aren't real.
And no
Fuck
more
you,
WebMD. No more WebMD.
I mean, never Google. It's funny and he's an idiot, but it's true. No, God, no.
I could totally relate to this movie. One of my kids is a hypochondriac, and we have to go through every day. I have a lump. I have cancer. You don't have cancer. It's not a lump. Like, it is your bone. We have gone through this. And and you know, it's looked up every day, and we have gone through this for years.
It's hard though, because that's the thing, and I'm sure Dave, you can attest to this. It's like the idiocy of the brain is that the things that you do to initially to try to calm yourself are completely counterintuitive. So it's like when you're basically like by acknowledging that this crazy thought is real, you actually make it stuck. When the reality is what you have to do, which is much harder, is acknowledge that the thought's going to come back, but you don't want to pay it any mind. You're like, it's there, it's going to be there, it's definitely going to come back. But the moment you acknowledge it, is you you make it stickier and stickier in the brain, because you have two voices. You have your worried voice, which like is the thing that like triggers the sense of panic, and then you have your false comfort voice, which tries to calm it down. But the thing is, those parts of your brain aren't logical, and it doesn't matter. You can throw so much logic at the wall and it won't matter, because ultimately you'll know in your heart that it's cancer, or you'll know in your heart that you're dying. And it's like through like exposure therapy and through like a bunch of other techniques, you can make it go away. But you can't acknowledge these thoughts because they're not real, and the moment you solidify them in your brain as real, they become much harder to get rid of. And it's so fucked up that's how our brain works.
I like the way you described that. That was actually really like a great way for people to comprehend. That was
Dave stealing that for his clients. See?
Yeah, it's good, because I mean, it's better than being like your amygdala is triggered and then your prefrontal cortex.
But that science was very helpful to me when I learned about it, because ultimately I was like, oh, that's what's happening. Once again, like you said, once you could put the definition on it, once you actually could put yourself in the box, because it's like, I feel like in terms of like gender and queerness, I'm like, no box. But like in terms of mental illness, or disease, it's so much helpful to have the box, because then you could actually take steps forward towards curing it. And once I learned that I had catastrophic intrusive thoughts, and that OCD could also be in your head, it's not just physical, I was like, boom, I have it. I know what I have. Great. And it's still going to be hard, but there's a label, and there's a series of things that have worked in the past for other people. I like to think that I am not special, and that hopefully the things that work for other people will also work for me. You know.
Good. I like that.
So, Addison, we're running a little low on time. There's two questions. One, where can everybody find you? And the most important thing is, what are you going to do after this?
Oh, I can't tell you that last question, but I'll give you a little cookie, or a little, not a cookie. It'll be like a little crumble, like mice eat. So you can definitely find me. I'm mostly on Instagram. I just do Twitter for the doom scroll, but you can find me. You can find me on Instagram at AddieBear5. You can also follow the movie at hypochondriac.film. And then this movie comes out July 29th in theaters. Check your local theaters to see if it's playing. Primarily it'll be in Alamo Draft Houses in big cities. And then on August 4th, it'll be on demand for everybody to watch and tear apart. But please like it. I like when people give me validation. I prefer it to food. In terms of my next question, your next question, or my next project, I would say this. So it's a sister film. It's not really Hypochondriac 2 Electric Boogaloo, but it's like a sister film of like Hypochondriac. Yeah. So I mean, that's an easy joke. Everybody makes it. But basically it's like, okay, so if Hypochondriac is a story about how I asked for help, the next one is the story of how once you ask for help, how you navigate through that trauma, come out the other side, and still are able to lead with empathy. So like that's just, it's like I've now experienced more in life. I have more questions and answers to discuss, but this was a story of how I asked for help, because that's the first step, and I didn't know anything past that. And now I have some, I don't want to say advice, but I could basically just be like, this is the new version of the story of how I was led from this to this. And maybe it'll offer or inspire or help in others. I know this movie has for certain people who've come up to me afterwards. So I'm very much a mental health advocate, I guess, as it were, and I'm queer, and that intersection is super interesting to me, especially through genre and horror lenses. And I hope to continue making that stuff as long as people will give me their money to do it. And I hope they do.
Let's do.
Yeah.
Let's do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Addison, thank you so much for this conversation. Really enjoyable. This film was great, but it was also very powerful, and also, like I used this word earlier, but vulnerable again, because it's like you're showing a side of you that, you know, is open to feedback. So thank you for allowing that and allowing us to be able to view it. We appreciate you coming on here.
I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me. And this was a great conversation. And I wish you well in your endeavors. And I want that Audrey too. I might steal it. I don't know your address, but I'll find it and then I'll steal it.
Okay.
I need to stop talking. Anyway, thank you. Yes, you're so kind.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening, and make sure you check out Hypochondriac. Have a great day.